I feel like there is so much distortion in New Age when it comes to twin flames and divine counterpart connections to the point where it drives me freaking insane. And I think it bothers me a little bit more because I am an authentic. I was actually a split twin soul. So I think there's this piece of me that's just like, yeah, I kind of know what this is about. Like, been dealing with this journey for thousands of years. And then here, we have this whole subset of the New Age community that is like seeking out their twin flame or their counterpart and like thinking that this is just the key to love and romance and the best thing ever and it's something everyone needs to have. Right? That cannot be further from the truth. Like, it is insanity out there right now. If you like esoteric topics or spiritual topics, or if you like New Age stuff, please do like, subscribe, and turn on that notification when it comes to anything related to our channel because we also have a podcast called the Goddess Vibration Podcast, which publishes bi-monthly on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, and also here on YouTube. So if you like that kind of content, please do give us a like and a subscribe because it helps the algorithm and it helps us get in front of people who like to hear this kind of stuff that we're talking about. First thing I'm going to need to say when it comes to twin flames and anything related to twin flames is that the New Age community has most of it wrong. Not all of it, but most of it. Fortunately, a lot of the content that you're going to see online, on these internet spaces, whether it's forums or social media or Reddit or, anywhere else where you might go to look up twin flames and twin flame information and what it means, or even if you think you're in a twin flame connection and you're just trying to make sense of it. Unfortunately, the majority of the information online is distorted. Now, that's not to say that you cannot get good information about the journey and how to navigate it online. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a lot of the important aspects and pieces of the journey and what it truly means and how one can navigate it and actually evolve and expand from it has been lost. Now, I don't quite know why it's been lost. I just think that as a society, we kind of gravitate towards love and light, and so romance and marriage and relationships and babies, like that's the kind of stuff we like to see. And then the other aspects and components of it, like the deeper, harder aspects of needing to look at yourself, the shadow work, integrating the shadow with the light, the trauma, working through the past and working through your pain and changing your prior destructive behavioral patterns gets lost. So now you have information online about this journey that's only half truth and only shares half of the entire story. Now, I feel like a lot of the beliefs around twin flames right now are centered upon this idea that there's like one twin flame out there for everyone, and that everyone has a twin flame, and that when you come here and you incarnate and you start this spiritual journey, you should strive to find this person and align with this person and ground this beautiful, earth-shattering relationship and live happily ever after. And that seems to be the common theme across the internet space when it comes to twin flames. To the point where you have twin flame coaches and twin flame guides and places like Twin Flame Universe that ground people who are looking for this idealized idea when it comes to relationships and romance. And you can understand that if someone is looking for connection, maybe they're lonely, maybe they're trying to find a relationship that really aligns with them and they're struggling, the type of appeal that twin flame coaches or, twin flame programs might have over someone like this. And so you see a lot of people kind of getting lost in this and getting the wrong information and focusing on the wrong thing. And I just really think that this space needs to take a step back and really shift the narrative and the focus when it comes to these divine counterpart connections and what they're truly meant to be. It doesn't help either that we have these crazy pop culture references to twin flames. For example, a couple years ago when Megan Fox came out and swore up and down that she and MGK were twin flames. It was such a big thing, and they had looked at astrology and figured it out and determined that they had all these prior lives. Which, yeah, that might be the case. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're twin flames. And that's where I feel like a lot of distortion started to kind of hit the mainstream again, is when she came out and made this big claim. And so now that attention and focus back on finding our twin flame is kind of back in the forefront. And I'm just like, it's really time for us, especially if you're in New Age or you follow New Age spirituality, to be a little bit more responsible when it comes to some of this information and correct some of these distorted and false narratives. When I had my initial spiritual awakening and I started looking online for information, I found a lot of stuff that I gravitated towards. And at that time, I knew I was dealing with a divine counterpart connection. I knew that we were twin souls. So, like, one of the first things I did was I went online to Google, I searched twin souls, and I just started looking at all of the information online, which, newsflash, don't do that. That's, you're going to find stuff, but so much of it is so distorted. So just, if you're going to do that, please make sure you're carrying discernment. So with that said, I think one of the first things I found was like a discussion thread, or like some questions that were being answered on Quora about twin flames. And there was actually a lot of really insightful information, and I felt validated reading some of the stories of other people who were experiencing what I was experiencing. But like, a lot of people didn't really share what it meant, how to navigate it, like what you really should be focusing on when it comes to these type of connections. And I think that that's where I kind of went down the wrong path and ended up stumbling into these spaces where their entire focus was about like, no, you don't end up with your twin flame ever. You go and find some other person. Your twin flame is just this person that kind of helps you heal. Like they're your mirror, that's it. Which is also a distortion. So, unfortunately, like back a couple of years ago when I was looking at some of this information, I did take it at face value. I didn't use the discernment like I should have, and it did pull me off the path. So I wanted to create this video as a warning to other people who are looking for information online about twin flames and about this space, to really make sure that you do your due diligence and read everything with discernment and only take what resonates. Okay, trigger warning. Before I move forward, I'm going to dive a little bit into what twin flames truly are. This is from my perspective, and this is based on some of the channeled messages that myself and my co-host have extracted. And just so you know, we are both divine channelers, so we can tap into some of the higher vibrational beings and channel messages from them, ground them, and translate them into helpful information for the collective. We do that in our spiritual community, and we also share some of these channelings on the podcast. So one of the things that we did was we just asked some general questions about twin flames and got a very interesting answer. So the archangels have told us in prior channelings that the concept of twin flames is something that humans cannot wrap their minds around. It's not something that most humans can fathom because it ultimately presents an impossibility, right? It's the idea behind it is that you are whole. You are a whole individual, but you are also a separate individual. You are both whole and separate, and experiencing this duality in the physical realm in order to find your way back to wholeness using unconditional love as the tool. So, to most of us, the idea that you can be separate and whole is just out there, right? We think very black and white. The idea that you can be something like that kind of makes people's heads explode. So I get where they're coming from when they say most humans can't fathom the idea. Because honestly, when we were told this, like, it was hard for both of us. Now, I happen to be twin soul, a little bit different from a twin flame, but the concept is the same in that I am a soul split to two aspects, and we are here on Earth, incarnating, trying to find our way back to wholeness through each other, through the journey of deep introspection, using unconditional love as the tool in the path. So I understand it at its essence, but this information isn't being talked about in New Age. Like, the focus is always on the romance and the relationship, the love. And so I feel like the true essence of what a twin flame truly is gets lost. And this is where things start to spiral. So this is the exact language that was used when it comes to the definition of a twin flame. This came through a channel being known as Shakti, who is actually an authentic twin flame. Shakti and Shiva are two halves of a whole. They're both whole, but also separate. And so the message in and of itself was very, very beautiful, very profound. And they also told us something very interesting, which is that most people incarnate on this planet right now are not twin flames. Most of the people who think they are twin flames are not. Matter of fact, good warning, it's probably close to about 99.9% of individuals incarnate now are not twin flames because they told us that at this time on Earth, there are approximately 10 twin flame pairs right now. Yes, 10. This many. This many. So you can imagine on a planet of billions of individuals, how many people who think they are twin flames are likely not. Unfortunately, I'm just a messenger. Don't come at me. You know you had a problem, you go to them. So please understand our perspective when we're sharing some of this information around this. And it's not to say that people might not be experiencing other divine connections. As a matter of fact, if people are having these profound encounters and they're transformative and they're incredible and they're jarring and they shake up their world, they probably are running into some type of twin flame like connection. The thing about these connections is they kind of all operate similarly, like they're all very transformative. They're just transformative in different ways at different energetic octaves. So a soulmate connection can be just as transformative as a twin flame connection. You know, a karmic soulmate connection can be just as transformative as a soul family connection. So I think that we need to understand that everyone has a divine counterpart. You know, everyone is going to have these type of incredible transformative connections. They're all significant for different reasons. So calling everything twin flame isn't accurate when it comes to what that term truly means. You know, the original twin flames were ancient beings who got involved here on the planet. They came with the intent originally to have this experience of separateness and wholeness in a physical form and to ground something beautiful, help the collective, and ended up taking on karma. And so as a result, they're here kind of working through their karmas. So there again are about 10 pairs currently on the planet, all serving very significant and important energetic roles. And I feel like when it comes to the term twin flame, that should be honored and respected because these people are working so hard. You have to imagine how hard it is to be on a journey of wholeness when like an aspect of yourself isn't even there, but you still have to find your way back to wholeness. Like it is not easy and it is not for the weak. It is a journey that will challenge and push you to the brink, as many divine connections often do. So please do recognize and understand why my perspective is a little different. Now, I do want to share something about soul family connections because these are connections that are very, very similar energetically, and the impact is also very similar. So a soul family is a group of souls who have come together to learn together, and oftentimes they'll incarnate as members of the same family or the same social group, and they typically do this over and over and over again because they just share amongst themselves in that family unit the learning of lessons, trying to help each other learn lessons, and as they learn their lessons together, the soul family kind of ascends and grows together. So if you have a soul family and you run into one of them while incarnate, there's a good chance it will feel very similar to what people are calling the twin flame connection. It's going to rock your world. It's going to be this immediate recognition. As a matter of fact, I've actually run into several members of my soul family, and it was literally just like that. Like, I felt like I knew these individuals my entire life. It was just this profound, energetic impact, and it was just like, even if I didn't know who they were, it was just like, oh my God, there's something about this person, know what it is, know why. I just feel like I know them or that I have been involved with them. And oftentimes we have hit it off. Like, I've always hit it off with members of my soul family. And so it could be something like that, something really impactful and incredible and beautiful and amazing. There's a good chance that person's probably part of your soul family, or perhaps they're a soulmate, or perhaps they're there to teach you some type of lesson. All these connections are impactful and important. Now, I mentioned earlier that I am a twin soul, which is a little bit different from a twin flame. Basically, the twin flame connection can happen in different ways. I did mention earlier that there are entities or beings here now who are twin flames, and that they were these really profound and very high vibrational beings who decided at some point that they wanted to experience that wholeness and separateness, that duality, and so decided they wanted to do that and come here and do it on planet form. And then there's another set of twin flames who are splits, or what I call twin souls. Now, there's debate as to what it says in the Akashic records. Some people will say, well, it says twin soul in the Akashic records if the soul is split. Or they'll say, well, it's twin flame if the soul is split. You just have to know the difference. I don't really know. I just make the distinction for myself with the term twin soul because essentially it's just one soul who splits as a result of karma. Now, this concept is a little bit more esoteric, but it is possible for the soul to split in the event of substantial karma, whether that's trauma or abuse or just making the wrong choices as a soul over and over and over again. At some point, it's possible for the karmic burden on one's soul to be too much. So what happens, the soul has to split from one, two, to balance out the karmic burden. That happened to my soul. I've been on this journey for the better part of 7 to 10,000 years, and the goal is to eventually come back to wholeness by reaching union in the physical with your twin soul, and then ascending and growing back into wholeness. And that is a process and a journey that takes a very long time. Not overnight stuff, guys. It's like this is this is this is a journey. Yeah. So from that perspective, for me, it's a little bit easier to understand the concept of twin flames. Again, I know for a lot of people, it's just like this concept makes no sense because it doesn't, right? Like this idea that you can be two things at once. It's bonkers. It's insane. It's like not how we think. But as we start doing this inner work and as we start learning to become spiritual beings here on this planet, we need to understand that black and white thinking and this idea that something can be either or is a falsehood, and that it is absolutely 100% possible for something to be both. Because the universe, that's acknowledged and recognized. This whole idea of black and white only is more of a 3D, fear based, earth based concept that most of the higher beings don't recognize. So I actually met my twin soul online. I have actually never met my twin soul in the physical realm. We have always interacted on internet or on Xbox or through text. We actually met on Xbox, and it was just one of those things where we connected, and it was just like this profound, immediate recognition of like, oh my God, this person, I know them, there's something about them. I don't know who this is, but it just feels right. They just feel like this piece of me that's been missing, like all of that stuff I felt. And it wasn't until we started to take the connection in a different direction and take it offline and try to get to know each other a little better that I started to experience more depth of the connection, and it became apparent to me that, oh my God, this is something rare and incredible. Now, fortunately for me, at the time when we met, we were like in our 20s, an idiot, made really bad choices. And when it got to that place where he wanted to make it a little bit more serious, I became the better. Yeah, yeah, you can bring all your hate my way. No, runners aren't very well liked. I am sorry. I just at the time had a lot of ego. It's been really hard for me to get over my ego. And I just felt like this connection is doing things to me in a way that I'm not ready for, in a way that I'm not prepared for, and I can't do it. So I actually ended up ending the connection in a very inappropriate way. I ghosted. Yeah, yeah, I'm a bad person. I regret that too, and I regret the effect it had on him because I know it hurt him. But at the end of the day, our ego gets in the way. And honestly, the reason why so many of these connections don't ground and become relationships in the physical is because we can't get past our ego. We just feel like, we need to protect that hurt person at all times. And we create this facade of who we are as a person, and it controls every aspect of our being. And when that's the case, when you need to do the deeper introspection to figure out what the counterpart connection is showing you about yourself, you can't do it because your ego just says, nope, I'm not ready for none of that. So that's what happened. Unfortunately, at this time, me and my divine counterpart are not in contact, but our split is an interesting dynamic because I'm the feminine, but I'm also the mental body or the mental aspect of the original soul. He is the masculine, but he is also the emotional aspect or component of the original whole soul. So we sort of have like these quirks about it. Like if you were to see us both in person, you would be like, these people are exactly the same person in two bodies. And it's literally like that. But we're different in that my operation is mostly from a mental, logical, rational place, and then his operation is mostly from a emotional, compassionate, empathic place. And so, like, I think when we parted ways, there was a lot of that disconnect and that, well, what makes sense, when it comes to this connection? For me, it was like, well, this is a long distance connection, that's not going to work. It was all about convenience. For him, it was like, well, I really like this woman, I really like this connection, we can make this work, but I guess there's something about me she doesn't like. That hurt. And so we have since been in separation, connected a couple times, but for the most part, are still in separation. And because of the effect of our ego, we haven't been able to ground anything in the physical. So ultimately, when it comes to connections like this, the focus is about the self. It's easy to look at the other person and say, oh my God, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're not listening to me, or seeing me, or hearing me. It's all their fault. It's so easy to do that. But what we really should be doing in divine counterpart connections is saying, oh my gosh, this person makes me feel this specific way. What is that telling me about myself? So when I go back to that connection that I had and how I chose to run, I recognized that I was scared. And I was scared of what I would discover about myself through that connection because I knew that there was some stuff there that was not healthy. And for whatever reason, my ego just wasn't ready to confront that. So that's what I mean when I say that these connections are mirrors. They're showing you to yourself in a way that requires further care and compassion and understanding. And I think this is where a lot of people get lost on this journey because we decide instead to project all of our hurt and pain and trauma on the other person and blame them. And unfortunately, not a recipe for union. I like to tell people, and I even tell myself, to look at the triggers as opportunities. Because yeah, the divine counterpart journey, soulmate journey, twin flame journey is gonna trigger the fuck out of you. Like, it's gonna push you to the brink mentally, emotionally, spiritually. There are gonna be times where you feel like you're losing your mind, especially if it's a romantic connection. You are gonna feel insane. And don't even get me started on the dynamics where both counterparts meet while they're still married to other people or in connection with other people. Like, you want to talk about a new type of torture? Yeah, I experienced that too. When my counterpart and I reconnected for the first time after I ran, we were both married to other people. And you can imagine the mental gymnastics I had to go through to decide that even staying in touch with him at this time was worth doing. Like, again, these connections are so, so challenging. And they're like that because the intent is to push you to challenge your traditional mode of operation and thinking, especially in a society where everything is just distorted or like wrong, or it just takes us away from that really deeply important aspect of ourselves that tells us what's our best and highest. We operate in ways based on programming, societal programming in particular, based on societal rules and norms. And I think the intent behind a lot of these connections is to challenge that and push back on that. And we need that right now. We really, really do. And so you have to understand that these connections serve a very important and useful purpose. And I'm going to be honest with you, most of them will not ground into the physical, into actual true relationships, unless unless both parties ascend into them. So I want to make a distinction between doing the work and ascending. Like, yeah, you can go into these connections and find out things about yourself in the way that you've been asked and do the work, and start looking at things like inner childhood wounding, how your past beliefs have influenced your behavior, how some of the teachings from childhood may have created distortions in your mind that you're projecting onto other people. You can go and look at all of that, start doing that work. But until you start implementing it and putting in the work to change your behavior, change your thinking, start acting and operating in a different way, start like coming into those states of mental and emotional peace because you have been doing the work, that is how you start to ascend into these connections. And again, I really, really feel like a lot of divine counterparts that are here having very profound and transformative connections and relationships, especially the ones that are very tumultuous. I really truly get the impression that they are meant to ground at a higher frequency, at like 5D or higher. And that makes sense because 3D, when we go into these relationships and we think that we are running into love or in love, oftentimes the love is conditional. Because again, how can you love someone truly and authentically if you're allowing the ego to operate and run your entire being in existence? You're essentially operating from a fear state, which unfortunately in 3D is a very fear-based frequency. So how do you go into love when you're operating from fear and think that that's going to last? That's why I'm really truly under the impression that the connections are meant to ground into the physical once we get rid of all the fear, once we start changing our distorted negative beliefs, once we start finding out who our true selves are. That's where we start to see these beautiful romantic unions manifest in the world. I noticed also in my connection that I was trying to exhibit a lot of control over it. Like, I kind of knew our soul story and the significance behind it, and like what we had been doing for so long, and things that we had done to each other. And I was like, well, I want to change this. I want to change this trajectory for our souls. So we need to come into union so that we can make that happen. Like, get over here. Let's do this work. But for him, it wasn't about that. It was about, well, is there a romantic connection here? Do you want me in that way? Like, show me that you want me in that way. And so again, we had this disconnect because I was operating from a mental place and he was operating from that more emotional space. So our dynamic is very unique. At this time, again, we are not in contact, but I do care for him deeply and I wish him the best. And so Another thing that's really, really important on these journeys is you have to eventually, at some place, get to a place where you are content and at peace if you are not in union with this other individual. Because once you start feeling like you need this person and this person is so important and you can't operate without this person, now you're operating from a place of lack. And that is not a space to be in when you're trying to reach wholeness and fullness and peace and contentment. So everyone can get there. Everyone can find that place of surrender when it comes to these connections, but it does require a lot of looking at yourself and looking at your flaws and the way you've operated and how you have hurt yourself or self-sabotaged throughout your journey and why things aren't manifesting the way that you want. It's probably because of something you're carrying or the way that you're acting. So I do hope that this was helpful in some kind of way. I just felt so strongly that there was a need to correct the narrative out there. Again, please take what resonates, discard what doesn't. But we do talk a lot more about things like this and share a lot of channelings from entities that we call the guides, who have volunteered to be a part of a spiritual community to help anyone who is on the spiritual path or on the spiritual journey that just needs a little bit more support and guidance. So you can find that at our website. I'm going to include the link below. Check it out. We offer 7 days for free. It's called the Higher Vibe Tribe. And it's kind of the space that I want everyone to be able to kind of mold and craft into something that works for all of us. Because this isn't a journey that you can do by yourself, you guys. Like, we need communities. We need to start reestablishing communities and coming back together and, being one. Like, it's really time for us to come and be one, because sense of individuality and separateness is creating so much disharmony in the collective and keeping us away from opportunities and avenues and love. So we wanted to kind of catapult that next phase of human evolution by encouraging anyone and everyone to come be a part of a community, because we are stronger and better in numbers and as a group. So please do check it out. Our website is www.goddessvibrationstudio.com. And if you like this kind of stuff and the stuff that we talk about, please do check out our podcast, Goddess Vibration Podcast, which you can find on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. And leave us some feedback, because we'd love that. So until next time, again, thank you guys. Much love.